it was like a demon needed to come out of my body. And I didn't know what was happening because this has never happened to me before. But I lean over to the side of the trail and all those demons just came out of my body in full force and all over the side of the trail in a very strange way because I've never experienced throwing
projectile
up like that
vomiting.
before.
Wow.
And just vomiting over and over and over again in just like bouts. And you have pacers throughout these races, especially during the night sections, to kind of keep you on course, keep you a little bit safe. And I looked up at my pacer, who's me and Jen's good friend, Austin. And I was like, what was that? And he's like, you just threw up. Like, how do you not know what that is?
Hi, I'm so excited for our guest that is on our show today, Andrea McAfee. She's one of my best friends in the world, and we've been through a lot together. We've known each other for 7 years. Andrea is a mom. She's an incredible wife. She serves people more than almost anyone I know. You're an incredibly accomplished runner. I'm excited to talk about your 100-mile races that you've accomplished, especially the ones this year, but even your journey in getting into ultra marathons, and you're in graduate school. I mean, you're doing a lot. You love to bake, and you're just an all-around incredible human. And I'm excited to learn today about process over outcome, and ultimately how to become unchained from negative voices so that we learn to love and accept ourselves. Andrea has a lot of wisdom and depth and experience to share with us today. I'm so happy to have you.
Let's do it.
We've been friends for a long time, and so I'm just going to quickly share my version of how we met, which is awesome, or really how we became friends. And it was you reaching out we met in the summer of 2017, and you reached out to me in October of that year to say, hey, do you want to go on a run? And I said, oh, I can't because I'm going to go do the Zion Traverse, which is a 50-mile from the east rim of Zion, and then you run all the way over to the west rim and end in Laverkin, I think, right? Anyway, and so it's 50 miles and it's intense and it's beautiful. And so just randomly, I said, I can't actually join you on Thursday because on Saturday I'm running the Zion Traverse. Do you want to come? Randomly that I just threw out this invite. And
it was
then
an empty offer.
What's that?
It was an empty offer.
No, it wasn't. That's the thing. It was actually a very
What is an
sincere
empty offer? Define an empty offer. Is that just like you meant it, but like you didn't mean it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Hey, if you get around to it, okay.
Okay, like maybe there was a little bit of that, but actually it was also no, do you want to come? It was actually a very sincere offer. But what was more surprising, and I did not know you at all. Now knowing you, the fact that you said yes is really surprising. And because you're very particular about what you say yes to, which is fantastic. Mm-hmm. So I love that here we are in the middle of Zion, and I'm thinking, I don't know anything about this girl. Can she even do 50 miles? Is she going to die? And we just, like hobbled along together, and we stayed together the whole time. It was such a beautiful thing. And I would say that was really the start of our friendship. And then we've just had this beautiful friendship that has continued to evolve.
How long ago was this?
2017.
So 7 years ago. Yeah. And I'm just going to ask a question. The Zion Traverse, 50 miles. First of all, 50 miles is twice a marathon. This isn't like a paved trail, right?
Yeah, no.
I know it's not, but for our listeners.
Yeah.
How long did this event take?
12 hours.
Okay.
Was it 12?
I think it ended up being 15 or 16.
Oh, maybe it was that long. Was it?
Yeah.
We started early in the morning, and you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ended at 10
Sunrise to sundown, pretty much.
I remember you running around the parking lot to get up to 50 miles. Maybe we all did that, right? You, Jason, and I.
That was my very first official 50 miler. So it was very important that my watch said 50 miles.
Yeah.
Oh, so, yeah. Trust me, you were running circles in the parking lot if it said 49.8. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I understand this psychology a lot.
Yeah. Yes.
So I think I'm curious because one of the things that you guys have in common is that you go out and run these great lengths. And these are absurd lengths, right? And it's easy to throw them around like, oh yeah, Andrea did 100. And one of the things I think that we want to talk about today is the fact that you completed 200-mile races in the 3-week period, which I'm going to be curious. We've got lots of questions. I have questions about that. But what do you think is, Andrea, the common thread that you and Jen share? And maybe is it a common psychology or psychosis that ultra runners share? What is it? What is this? Because it is a shared thing that you do. I don't just mean like, oh, we both like to run. That's different. We both like to run is like running 10Ks.
Yeah.
What is it?
So
what is that?
This is a very interesting question, and I feel a little bit bold answering this for me and Jen. But I will say, I think it comes down to two things. One, you're just a little sadistic and you just enjoy pain more than most people. And maybe you like find weird like pleasure in the actual pain of the experience. And two, I think there is certain people that need to just be defined a little bit differently and need something to make them stand out a little bit more. And this is like that step above. I like to run marathons. I like to go out for a 5K. And I can only assume that Jen is a little bit in the same boat as me, where we just need something a little bit different to define us.
So I think this is fascinating. Because I know both of you gals, and I don't know Andrea well. But one thing I don't see is you gals running around with a 26.2 sticker in your window. Now, I say that kind of facetiously because sorry to everyone who has a 26.2 sticker in their window.
Yeah. But when Andrea met me, when we first met, I had a 26.2 sticker in my window.
Did.
However,
and she was like, oh, that's cute.
But it's also because I bought my car off of my mom, who is a big marathoner, and so it was there already. But to Andrea's point, it feels a little sadistic, but no, there's something more. There's a psychology behind it.
Well, and I think there is, and maybe the reason I'm even saying this is that I don't see you identifying only as that. Either of you.
Yes.
Andrea, you tell us like a little bit about your personal life, because you happen to have a hubby and some beautiful kids. Oh, actually, you have a beautiful hubby and beautiful kids. I mean, he's good looking. He's a good looking dude.
He's beautiful.
He will appreciate that.
Tell us about what is your life beyond this? Because we want to come back around to this.
So it's actually been really, really important to me to not identify myself as a runner. I've made it a point to not say I am a runner. I want to say I'm someone who runs, because that is something that can be taken away from you at any point in time, right? Any injury can set you out and you won't be a runner anymore. So I like to define myself as I'm a mom who loves to play with my 2 kids. Me and my husband love to go and do things outdoors as much as possible. We love to torture our children with the outdoors as much as possible because they have yet to find that same joy as us. I love to watercolor and paint. I love to read. And I really enjoy meeting new people and being with old acquaintances. There's something about reconnecting with old people that really fills my heart. And I really love baking. So I feel like all these things put together make you this person. And instead of saying, I am this, these are all the things that you enjoy, and it makes you one person altogether.
Yeah.
I love that, Andrea.
I love that, because this is the Unchained podcast. The Unchained podcast, we define it as a podcast about freeing ourselves from the emotional, physical, and relational chains that hold us all captive. And one of the things we were in the car last night talking about you, actually. And we were talking about you, Andrea, but also about the nature of ultra running, right? Of ultra running. And you set this up, Jen, we went to Texas, and then there was so much traffic, and people are so angry. They're angry in their car. They're angry at the airport. The TSA guy's angry. People are angry. And so,
I'd say for the most part, Texans were actually very
Texas
friendly,
is
and
great.
I very much enjoyed.
Yeah. By the way, this is not about Texas, but I mean, like when you just kind of interact with people.
There is that.
And
when
so
you're kind of in like mass crowds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, but I I think it's fascinating when you don't identify as a runner. You completed 200-mile events in a 3-week period. Were you third female in one of them?
That is correct.
It's a big deal. It's a really big deal, right? Just for you have to live in an unchained way to not hold yourself to this is my entire identity. And this is what I'm saying from my perspective.
And I want to jump in here actually, because this is a really interesting question. So, I mean, I understand this firsthand, but we've also had a lot of these conversations. But there is, when we put those labels on ourselves, like I am a mother or I am a runner, it almost forces us to do certain things because that's what's expected of us. And so there have been times where I know that you've been training and I've been training, where I'm just thinking right now, Andrea, of the time that you were out running, and wasn't there a bomb threat called on your kid's school and you missed the message because why would you be ever thinking about that? And so your friend, do you want to share what happened and also what you were thinking about what you were doing at the moment?
I mean, that's a great example of where you can't really identify in any one part of your life, because are we ever going to be perfect in every single part? No. So I was out running and had 3 miles to go back to my car to still yet drive back from that trailhead to my kids' school, and saw that I had missed all these messages, not only from the school, but from other parents. So I'm calling everyone back and I'm like, what is going on? And the school had called everyone to come and pick up their kids because there was a viable bomb threat. And here I am just, out on the mountain, so proud of myself for being committed to being a runner. I was doing exactly what was on my schedule that day. Here I was being a runner and not a mother. And I was doing it to the best of my ability that day and still failed in yet another area. So I feel like if you're identifying as like, I am a mother, I am a runner, you're going to fail yourself at some time. And, the story, everything was fine. My friend had actually picked up my kids for me, so they were just fine. There was no actual real bomb in the school. Everyone was fine. But I just think it's really interesting that if you do take what you feel like you are and you failed it that one day, then your entire self fails you. So you have to be able to identify in like multiple forms. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I love that. I actually love this because you and I've had a little bit of conversation around this, where especially if you get into you like fitness, you wake up in the morning and you go, we were having this conversation about laying in bed too long. So the alarm goes off and you're like, I'm kind of tired. I could use 5 more minutes. I could use 10 more minutes. I could use 20 more minutes. And you lounge and you lollygag and this thing unfolds. And then you scramble out of bed, and let's just say it's 45 minutes later. And then you start to have this story, which is being prisoner, which is being captive, which is being slave, which is being chained. I failed. I was supposed to blank. And I'm just using this as a dumb example. There are 900 examples, right? I was supposed to be at my kid's school.
Yeah.
For the first day. I was supposed to do this. Yeah. I'm supposed to be available to for the bomb threat text. I mean, make sure you set up your notifications to be aware to be ready for bomb threats. I'm supposed to do my workout. I was supposed to be a great mom. I was supposed to look perfect because I'm a woman on the planet, right? All these things.
Yeah.
And we're so captive to it. And I'm 49. I'm the oldest one in this trio. And do we ever get over this? This is a question. Andrea's a little bit younger than me, for sure. Okay. 15 years younger for sure. Maybe a little more than that. So do we ever get over this? I don't know. Andrea, do you deal with this? Do you deal with this I was supposed to?
So I love this question because I actually really have been working on not feeling that way, not feeling like I have to fulfill every single bucket in my life. So like you were saying, I completed 2 100-mile races within 3-week period. And my main goal above everything was not to be perfect at both of them. Like I had to pick one that I cared about a little bit more, and I had to give more to that one than to the other. Like they both couldn't have 100% of me. And that is where the perfection of like these races fell down, and I was able to just perfect the process and not the outcome. And I think that has really like resonated within me, where I'm going to perfect this process and the outcome is not going to be perfect, but I can work on what I'm doing each and every day. And that's improving my grit, my resilience, and all these other things, but not worrying about making sure I'm like 100% in every bucket of my life.
Okay, I had like a Lewis Howes. I've already made a Lewis Howes reference on this podcast. You know, he always says, ooh, ooh, but I did more of a, oh. Can that be mine?
You can do that.
Perfect the process, not the outcome. Everybody on the planet, just write that down, and whatever you're doing, save it and maybe put it on a sticky note on your mirror. So walk us through the process. So if you do 200-mile events, they were what? So 2 questions. Number 1, what were these events? I actually have like 7 questions. What were the names of these events? Where were they? How long did these take? Because I want to get into process. Can we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, give us more. So where were these?
So the first one was Wasatch 100. And if you're familiar with Utah at all, you start basically at the bottom of Lagoon and you climb up to the water towers above Lagoon. So in the first 4 miles, you're climbing about like 4,000 feet. And then throughout there, you finish over in Heber, actually. So you just kind of get to traverse the entire Wasatch Mountain Range, which is just really cool. It's my backyard. It's a race that has always been really near and dear to my heart. It's the first race me and Jen ever did together. And the very first time I barely finished within the time limit. So they only give you 36 hours to finish this race. I finished in 35:30. So I had 30 minutes to finish, or it wouldn't have counted.
And she came
so that
dragging across the finish line. It was really special to see you finish that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and am I clear, gals, that Wasatch 100 is about 24,000 vertical feet?
Yeah. It's really hard.
I want to give context. I want to insert something. Yes. So I do endurance mountain bike events, and these gals know this. But the Park City point to point that I did August 31st, which is the hardest race in the state of Utah, and considered kind of equidifficult, is that a term? To oh my gosh, how could I even forget this? In Colorado, my brain just completely fried. Anyway, that race that everybody talks about, Leadville 100. Thank you. Holy cow, I've talked about that 100 times. Equidifficult. But just for fun, I was 76 miles on a mountain bike, 11 hours total. Mm-hmm. That was only 10,000 feet of climbing. And the nature of running is different, right, Andrea? Because you can scramble up vertical rock and you can't scramble on a bike. We know this. We know because you just got a mountain bike, right?
Yes.
And you went on your first real mountain bike ride, right? And
yes,
it's different. Awesome. Yeah, it's amazing. And we saw on Strava, and I was like, look, Jen. So, but 24,000 feet. Okay, so the first one you did is 35.
And it's not even the vert. Not that I have to say this per se, but
yeah.
It's the difficulty of the terrain. So you look at the profile of a race, and it doesn't tell the story actually of what the difficulty of it. So you can look at the distance, you can look at the vertical, you can look at the altitude, but until you're actually out there doing it, it's a totally different ballgame. Because then the second race that you completed, and I want you to go back to Wasatch 100 this year and finish that story. But the second one, the Bear 100, is so much more runnable, even though it only has 2,000 less feet of vertical gain. So not even the same kind of comparison.
Yeah, less craggly, less something, right?
Yeah, it's just the terrain isn't as intense. So Andrea, you were talking about Wasatch the first year, just barely crawling across the finish line, literally. One of my favorite pictures.
Crawling across the finish line. When Jen says that, picture someone crawling across the finish line.
35 and a half hours. And Andrea, I want to point out for our listeners, the time is insane. But what people have to remember is that's no sleep. I mean,
Right.
20 minutes here and there, and if you want to speak to that. But this is like guys, just don't sleep one night. Just try it. As adults, you're ruined.
Yeah, it's not fun.
Ruined for weeks.
It was fun. It was cool when I was a teenager and in college, but it starts to become less cool. So
you did Wasatch 100.
Well, the first
I don't know.
year.
You're taking so much caffeine though that your entire nervous system is just jacked up at that point though too. So maybe it's actually a little bit better than just staying up all night.
Yeah. Well, and you're moving, and obviously you're moving, right? The nature of.
So you did Wasatch the first year.
I guess basically I went from a golden hour finisher, so like 5 p.m. to finishing I took almost 10 hours off of my time and finished in 26 hours at this most recent Wasatch. So I think maybe that is kind of the coolest part about this whole experience is I don't know if you ever get to do a race twice and say that you have taken 10 hours of your time.
No.
Andrea, what is cool is that we've been running together for 7 years now. And I've watched you get faster and faster and faster. So I want to know what is going on in your mind. I mean, I was at a friend's wedding in Moab, so I didn't even get to be there at Wasatch to support you. And but I was just watching with, like intensity where you were on the course and, just following you along through the process. And I heard from friends who were around you that you were very focused and kind of an intensity that you usually don't bring because you're so delightful and joyful and fun and funny to be around and loving and very cognizant of other people. So I do want to know, like, what is going on what's in your head space?
I think normally when I am running, I'm always really conscious of other people's feelings and what other people around me are doing. And I feel like I'm juggling a lot of that. And this time around, I was like, this is all about me. Like, I am going to focus only on me and just turn really inward and make sure that, again, kind of with that outcome, you can't control the outcome. You can only control the process. So I'm going to focus on, I need to drink water right now. I need to probably get in more calories. I need to make sure that I'm taking in some more electrolytes. And it's interesting that there is a point in a race where you do just look inwardly and you're basically focusing on survival skills to white knuckle yourself the rest of the way through this process to get to the outcome that you do want. And ultimately, I guess that's what got 10 hours off of my time, is really just focusing on what I needed in that next step and that next step and that next step, and not looking at the very end, but just focusing on what do I need to do next.
Yeah.
Was there anything in your mind that was there anything, of course you had lows during that Wasatch race this year, just a month ago. But was there any kind of mantra or even, something that allowed you to will yourself forward and push through the pain? Because you had to have been hurting. You were going fast, really fast.
I was hurting more than I think I have ever hurt in my entire life. And this is the Unchained podcast, so I feel like anything goes, right? Like I can just say anything.
You can say anything, Andrea.
So I, believe it or not, for anyone like listening to this, but I have never thrown up in my life. I have 2 kids. My mom doesn't have any memory of me throwing up. I never threw up through my pregnancies or giving birth or anything like that. I've never thrown up at all. In about mile 45 to 55, I was starting to feel pretty nauseous and was just getting a lot of like really, really sharp stomach pains. And again, I was just trying to take it steps at a time, thinking, okay, I probably need more electrolytes. I probably need more food. I'm getting a little bit dehydrated. And the pain just quite literally kept getting worse and worse and worse. And then it was like a demon needed to come out of my body. And I didn't know what was happening because this has never happened to me before. But I lean over to the side of the trail and all those demons just came out of my body in full force and all over the side of the trail in a very strange way because I've never experienced throwing
projectile
up like that
vomiting.
Wow.
And just vomiting over and over and over again in just like bouts. And you have pacers throughout these races, races, especially during the night sections, to kind of keep you on course, keep you a little bit safe. And I looked up at my pacer, who's me and Jen's good friend, Austin. And I was like, what was that? And he's like, you just threw up. Like, how do you not know what that is? And it was just the most extreme form of something physical happening that I've had pain in other races, but I've never had something so physically and like violently happen to me. And the coolest part about all of that is I wipe it off my mouth. It's like still over the front of me. And I just kept running.
Wow.
And I think that moment is what stands out in that race beyond everything else. Like, I knew I wanted to embody grit in this race. And that's what I pictured grit to look like, is wiping, salivating, throw up off of your mouth and just like still going. And so I think at that moment is when I was like, I have become grit.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. So I want to then forward to the Bear 100, which you completed. So you came in third at Wasatch 100, 26 hours and 40 minutes, something like that. And then just 3 weeks later, you were debating, do I run the Bear 100? I've signed up for it. I've paid for it. Do I run it? Do I not? And you decide to run it. But there was a moment, because I got the privilege of being with you at the end, the last 25 miles. And I remember with, 0.2 of a mile left, you looked at me and you said, this is a top 10 moment. So I want to know how you felt in the Bear 100 and what your mindset was there.
So going back to the fact that I had done both of those races, and like I said, I couldn't give 100% to each of them. I had to know that one of them mattered more than the other one. And that was Wasatch for me. That was something I felt like had just defeated me time and time again. So I wanted to come back and really do that race well. Bear was almost kind of like, if I'm healthy enough, if I'm not injured, I would love to do another 100. I don't believe this is something possible for me personally, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. And so going into the race, it was interesting because there was absolutely no pressure. There was no form of making me feel like I had to be something that I wasn't in this race. Like, I could go into it and just be me. I didn't have to try to pretend to be anyone else at all. I didn't have to even embody grit or resilience if I didn't want to. I could quit. And so at every single aid station, I've never done this before, but every single aid station, I'd sit and I'd think, yeah, I think I'm going to quit here. Like, can you go get me my flip-flops? Like, let's change out of my shoes and I'm going to be done here. And then somehow, and I think this was because of the process that I had practiced so many times, it was like, nope, just lace your shoes back on and get back out there. And then you can maybe quit at the next aid station. So this had been going on all day long, which I guess in and of itself was exhausting. I got to Jen, which was about mile 75. So we had 25 miles left. And I'm just kind of feeling like pleasant, feeling pretty good. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm done. Like, threw up again.
Jen, you told me that. Yeah, that she was like, I think I'm done. I'm just like, this has been a fun day.
This has been a great day. And I had Wasatch. That was a great experience. And I don't need to do anything more. I don't need to prove anything else. And I look at Jen and I was like, if you promise to not make me eat, I will keep running with you. And then we set out, and somehow I did not quit again. And I don't know exactly what got me out of that aid station, but yeah,
that's dope.
So me and Jen are running out of there, and I'm kind of prepared for a bit of a slog. One, I feel like my heart is maybe not 100% in it. At this point, I think I was 10th, 12th female. We were still making pretty good time, but here I am knowing that, no, I'm not going to make quite top 10. Why really put like a ton of effort into this? And Jen tells me that she's going to kind of take over all the decision making for me. She's like, you can turn off your brain, just follow me, just do what I do. And I'm running when she runs, I'm hiking when she hikes. If she stops, I stop. If she tells me to drink some water, I drink some water. And we just keep going like this for quite a while. And we're passing a few people here and there. And as we get to the very, very last aid station, which again, I was like, I might quit there too. Like someone can come and get us. That would be kind of cool to quit at mile 90. I bet no one's done that before. And at mile 90, we had passed like 4 or 5 other girls. And I could just see that Jen was like so driven to get me across that finish line. So here's where the two races really contrast. And maybe this is why the whole experience together is really, really cool. At Wasatch, I was really, really inward and just focused on me, myself. And Bear, especially at that moment, I saw how amazing my friend was and how amazing it was for her to just change my entire demeanor, change the entire focus of my race from me to like outward. Like we were just chatting and we were having such a great time. We were chatting with people. We were making friends with aid station volunteers. And it just changed from like an inward thing to an outward thing where suddenly I could care about everyone else around me, but I also didn't have to balance their emotions. And Jen just like took me and literally ran with me. And we passed so many people in that last 10 miles. And I don't know that I can effectively communicate how cool it is to really turn it up in the last like 25 miles of your race. Generally, people are hiking
Falling
the
apart,
last
right?
15, right? Like it's just unheard of to really pick it up that much. And so we went from like what was projected to be like a 26, 27-hour finish to 24 hours and again, I think 45 minutes and
way to go,
16
badass
miles.
sisters.
It was incredible.
At least that's what I'm referring to you now.
Yeah.
Well, Andrea, I'm fascinated with a piece of this that we're just having a conversation, right?
Yeah.
This pacing piece. She said when Jen stops, I stop, right? How important is that, especially in the last 20 to 30 miles of a race, having a good pacer? And I'm going to go on a limb and say, and obeying them, so to speak. How important is it?
I mean, it's vital. I feel like one, you have to have someone who you can trust to listen, because at that point your brain, like you were saying, you have not slept. Rarely people sleep very good the night before anyway. So you're really kind of going on 2 nights of inadequate sleep. You're not feeling very good or very like cognitively aware of anything. I mean, I feel like I'm even kind of hallucinating at that point. So to really have someone that they know what they're doing and you can trust them, that they can tell you when to run and you won't blow up later, or they can tell you what to eat and that won't make you nauseated. You can trust them when you say, do I need a salt pill? That they can say yes or no. And you can trust that that actually is the right answer, that they're not just, kind of spitballing. And so I think one, like you said, it's easy to listen to anyone at that point in time, but to really trust them and know that they will be giving you good advice. I mean, I told Jen, I literally would have paid for that type of pacing at that point.
Well, I really love this because we want to go it alone, in life. I think this is interesting. I hear your puppy's getting excited about it too, Andrea, which, by the way, we're dog friendly. There are 2 dogs hiding somewhere in the house, Blitz and Zelda. I think we have a competing desire as human beings. We think we're supposed to go it alone, but we deeply desire to not go it alone. Does that resonate with you gals?
My favorite quote, not favorite, one of my favorite quotes is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And goodness, in ultra marathons, that is so true. Yeah. And Andrea, I want to know why at the very end you turned and said, this is a top 10 moment. What made that feel that way?
So at the end of Wasatch, I was finishing feeling very depleted in every ounce of my being. Like everything was depleted. There was nothing left to give. Like I still feel like that race stole a part of my soul that I'm going to have to eventually go back out and get, because it's still out there on the trails lingering like a ghost. And this race, I have never felt so much joy and happiness and gratitude at the end. And the finish of that one is called Bear 100, and you start in Logan and you finish coming down the road to Bear Lake. So the sun was barely coming up. It was just the prettiest sunrise. I felt like Jen had transformed me from a zombie to a functioning runner again.
A strong runner. You were strong.
Yeah. And just to like feel that like physical resurrection was just like incredible. So I think it was the combination of like comparing that to my last race and knowing how awful I'd felt. And then knowing that we were just like cruising in, passing all these people. And I had one of my best friends with me. I wasn't like faking any of the joy. It was all just completely authentic. We're running towards that sunrise. And it was like I said, it was like a top 10 moment of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
And I have to say, watching you accomplish that was up there as one of my top moments in life also, because it's amazing the bonds that we form when we're out there, right? Mm-hmm. And what I love, just hearing you talk about it again, my heart swells because one, I love you dearly and deeply. And we've been through a lot together on the trails, off the trails, life. And I think my favorite part of it was I know who you are. I know what you're capable of. And I also know what your goal and desires were. And so I thought, I want to help you make that happen. And I'm here for you. It was really incredible that my joy was in seeing you succeed and fulfill your goal. And I'm sitting there doing the math of, okay, if we run at this pace, then if she finishes within this time frame, then she can still meet her goal of getting 24 hours, ... And I loved when I said that to you and I could see the fire additionally. Like you were already really strong and just following me, but I could see the fire in you. Oh, wow. I want to make that happen. Let's do it. And you were so joyful. I mean, we're coming down some really steep terrain down toward Bear Lake. You know, you've just crested like it's a brutal climb. I mean, it's the steepest climb of the whole race and it's at mile 92 and it's just like masochistic that they put that in there. And so then you climb this like 1.5 miles, 2 mile steep climb, and then you've got rollers, and then you have this steep descent. And it's horrible. If your feet and your legs, I mean, everything is hurting, but you didn't even appear like you were in pain. You were just looking out at the sunrise, barely coming up on the water. And you had so much joy and you just continued to feel joy. And I have to share something about you because this is who you are. We hit this dirt road and we had 3 miles to go to the finish. And I see another friend of ours, Ben, and he's pacing Allison, who's a really solid runner. And at this point, I have no idea where you are, like placement-wise among women in the race. But I realize we're going faster than they are. And of course, I'm very competitive. I can be very competitive, right? I can be very relaxed also. But the competitive side of me is, oh, we're just going to pass them. And Andrea didn't want to pass them. Because she thought, oh, if somehow we're top 3 female and you finished 6th female, which is unbelievable, because there was a new course record among women. So the first female of that race set a new course record. There were fast women that day. There usually are at Bear. But anyway, Andrea didn't want to pass. And then because you thought, I know that Allison wants this. And that's who you are. And you said, come along, come along. I mean, you are an incredible human. So somehow you balance this grit, and this intensity and this focus alongside this love. And, like you said, you're seeing other people along the way and even at the very end. And I loved that you finished and sat really right at the finish line. And anytime someone passed, you started crying. You didn't cry when you finished. You were just so happy, but you cried when everyone else you saw finished. That is who you are.
Yeah, that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, super beautiful.
Yeah.
It's not always about us, is it?
No.
You know,
It's actually never about us. It shouldn't. It's I should say it's rarely about us. Life is more beautiful when we focus outward. Like you said.
Yeah.
Our joy we don't have joy when we're focused inward.
I have a question for Andrea, and I'm loving these shares, and being on the Unchained podcast, there are a lot of false beliefs that we have as people about our capability, about how much time we have in a day, about what's possible physically, mentally, time-wise. What kind of thoughts did you have to surrender, become unchained from? Or do you have to surrender, become unchained from to complete a 100-mile race? And especially to complete 2 in 3 weeks, and to be, from every understanding I have, a great wife, a great mother, going to graduate school, by the way, decided to throw that in there like a maniac. What kind of thoughts do you have to surrender? Right? See, we spend all our time like, I need to become better. Actually, what did you have to let go of mentally to do this?
Yeah. And again, for everyone listening, I don't do all those things perfectly by any means at all. Sometimes my kids have to stay at school when there's a bomb threat, and that's just what happens if I'm out running that day. But I think the main thought that I kept repeating throughout this whole thing was the results of this don't determine your worth. Your worth comes from those phrases and those words that you cling to, like grit, joy, friend. I think I have a few words like that those are the things that I will lean on, but the actual results are not determining how much worth I have. So if I had to quit one of those races, my worth is not anything different at all. And so to like you were saying, unchain myself from certain thoughts, I think it's that I don't have to be perfect. And I actually don't even have to accomplish these goals to be a meaningful person. I could quit grad school tomorrow if I really wanted to, and that would not change my worth. And that is the truth for everyone, is all these things that we are doing that are really, really important to us, they still are not determining the actual worth you are as a human being. The even cooler thing, though, is having friends by you, like Jen, who see your potential and still push you towards those goals. And so making sure that you just have people in your corner that are those people saying, no, you don't get to quit because you are almost there. But knowing at the same time, it's kind of like the two sides of that coin, that if you did quit, you still would be an amazing person. And maybe that's what you need to let go of so that you can finish that race, or so that you can finish school, or you can get that job that you're wanting.
Oh, I love that.
Makes sense.
This makes so much sense. Jen, I introduced Jen a little bit. I'm in a mindset course program, a 6-month thing I'm studying, and from a guy named Matthew Ferry. And he talks about his philosophical viewpoint is that we came to the earth to have experience.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would do, the greater than experience, greater than outcome. Could we throw this?
Absolutely.
Experience over outcome, because I so often get tied to the outcome, and then what happens is I actually miss the experience. I miss the moment. I'm plodding ahead. I'm plodding backward. You know what I mean? I'm not in the moment. There's all this conversation around mindfulness. Oh, mindful, like we're going to sit around and we're going to meditate. Yeah, you should meditate. But mindfulness, from so many definitions that I've heard and that I'm adopting myself, mindfulness is to be just in the experience. It's just to be there. Mm-hmm. Just be where you are.
Yeah.
And I love what you said. Is there a story that we won't throw him totally under the bus? Speaking of surrendering ego, is there a story in which you potentially took your husband out for a training run and he got dropped by you and he found out that things were not?
That perhaps he wasn't ready to.
This is a fit. This is a fit, by the way.
Picture of Kenny and even his abs to show this is a very competent person.
This is a fit mid-30s. How old's Kenny today and during this show? Like what's his age? 30 what?
Let's see, 38.
He is a fit, like,
Yeah.
just so you
Yeah.
know, again, I talked about kind of man crushing. Like when I see a guy like Kenny, I'm like, dude, I kind of wish I looked like that. He's fit. You took him out. He did pace you during part of the Wasatch 100, correct?
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
went out on a run, and my understanding is that you went out and Kenny suddenly found out and had a complete face-to-face recognition with himself that maybe he wouldn't be able to actually keep up to pace you. Is this true?
This is, yeah, very true. And like we were saying before, there's so many nuances to this sport. As with other sports, every sport has its culture, but you don't fully understand how like difficult it really is to like be moving at altitude and needing to eat and take in a certain amount of salt so that your body is just working properly. And I took Kenny out on this, what I thought was maybe like a little more easier paced run.
How many miles?
And yeah, I think it was 26 miles, 26
It was like a
miles.
marathon.
And we went up and over Brighton, back down, kind of made a loop, and then we went back up. And he's moving a little bit slower, so I turn and I say, you know, I'll go up and I'll wait for you up at the top. And I'm waiting up there 15, 20 minutes and he's not coming. And I figure I should probably go back down and find him. Maybe he had gotten sick or hurt. And I come back down and
Mountain
he's
lion.
just, you know, zombie eyes with his poles. And I see him and I'm like, are you okay? And this like really tough guy that was told you suck in your tears just starts bawling. Like all the emotion is just coming out of his eyeballs. And he's like, I don't think I'm going to be able to pace you.
This is so good. It's actually hilarious and it's beautiful. By the way,
Yeah.
how endearing was this to you in this moment for you?
At first, I think I was just so confused and so thrown off that I couldn't enjoy it. But I enjoyed it the rest of the drive home because he continued to sob. And
I love that you were putting on all
could-
cheesy, sad songs and seeing if he burst into tears more. You're so
I
good.
definitely kept the emotional roller coaster going because, you know,
You were testing it.
But I do think I mean, it's a hilarious story. A picture of Kenny and his abs, nice one. But it is very funny because, we're all learning and we're all growing and we see what people have. Jen, we see, oh, so-and-so is so wealthy. Mm-hmm. So-and-so's business is going great. So-and-so's relationship looks this way, especially physically. We see bodies, right? And we go, I want that. What we don't understand, it's like, cool, you can have that. Let me walk you through the last 12 months, 18, 24, 48, 5 years that were spent to develop that. You don't see that, right? You only see like, well, if she can run this much, I can run this much. Yeah. You know, when I did that, the point-to-point race, two of my buddies that have done it 3 times said, yeah, some of these guys, it was such a great comment. Adam said, these guys go out who've done a couple 3-hour rides on the weekend and think they're going to do a 10-hour mountain bike race. You don't understand
the process.
And also the compound effect of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like 6 hours isn't twice as hard as 3, right, Andrea? 10 isn't twice as hard as 5. It's 4 times as hard because of the compound fatigue, right?
Yes.
And elevation. And, you know, but by the way, classic. I can't wait for him to know that we talked about it on the podcast. But I would, you could laugh at me for doing that.
Well, I love that you said compound effect. And I just want to bring this back around to the Unchained. And Andrea, you talked about something that I think is really important. And I really wish we had more time with you because we'll just have you on again.
Yeah, because we've only talked about the running.
You know, you're studying to be a therapist and gosh, this is all so intertwined. But Jerry, you said compound effect. And what people don't realize is the compound effect of physical fitness, but the compound effect of mindset as well. And Andrea, you earlier said you've worked really hard on unchaining yourself from who you are and your performance and your outcomes. And so if there's anything that you can share in the end, how do you do that? How does somebody unchain themselves from a mindset of this is who I am, it's titles and the things I have and, you know, how many friends I have versus my worth is not determined by external factors?
So I mentioned before that when you were pacing me, I had to trust that when you told me to eat, it would be an okay time to eat. I had to trust you that when you were saying walk, that was an okay time to walk, even if I wanted to run. I had to trust you when you said, okay, this is actually when you need to run and not hike. I had to trust you in all those things. I had to really learn to trust that people love me for me and that I actually am lovable and that that love is like unconditional. And as I have learned that I really truly am like a lovable person, those same people who love me before that race are going to love me after, no matter what happens. They're actually not even really going to love me more if I place third or if I place 33rd. They're going to love me no matter what. So the more I have learned to trust others and that they do love me and to trust that I love and appreciate who I am, that's when results don't matter. And I think just learning to trust and love has been like a literal game changer.
Wow.
Whoa.
Thank you.
I think she might wrap this show up beautifully.
I know. Thank you. I love that. And I'm grateful that I've had a first row seat in your life watching you through this process. And I think we've both experienced it. And I love that you said, looking at people who love you, leaning on them. And sometimes we even need to lean on the visions that other people have of us when we're in a low spot, right? I know I've been going through that a lot this year. And just leaning on other people's faith and belief in me and realizing, I was just about to say, I remember when I was pacing you up that massive hill and at Bear 100, and you said, Jen, you are so strong. You even took the time to compliment me, right? And recognize my gifts and strengths. And it was amazing how it strengthened me because I wasn't focused at all on myself. But it strengthened me so that in turn I could strengthen you. And I do love that you just mentioned, yeah, let's lean on those people who love us regardless of outcome and also their belief in us. They know, they see us for who we really are and who we can be. And I think that's why we need people. That's why we need each other.
And every single thing that she shared about believing she's lovable is core to the human existence. Every one of us, especially the more we act like we don't care, usually that's, for me, that's kind of a front that you're really afraid. Every one of us is like, am I lovable? Like, really, right? Am I approved of? Am I accepted? Andrea, the thing I want to say about you that I want to say about, and I'm going to say this, I've said this about Jen, is that you both, your running 100-mile races, how many have you done now, Andrea? 3, yeah. So between you gals.
You've done 4.
Okay, she's done 4. So
I tried to do 4.
You've done 4.
You've tens of thousands of miles. These achievements that people are like, this is crazy, is like the third or fourth most interesting thing about both of you women. It really is. But it's an important part of you also, right? Because every one of us is on this path, but it's like the third or fourth most interesting thing. So last question, what does it mean to you to become or live unchained? Andrea.
Sorry, say that one more time.
What does it mean to you to live or become unchained? And I say become because I think it's a process. Maybe we're never unchained.
I think it goes back to that focusing on the process and not the outcomes, and focusing on just what you're supposed to be doing every day instead of the entire chain itself is what like wraps around you and what is making you feel like you can't do anything. But if you are focusing on what can I do today to work on this goal? What can I do tomorrow to work on this goal? That's when you're just like focused on the here and now, and you're not worried so much about what this is all going to look like in the end. And so for me, I think becoming unchained is focusing on the process, not the outcome, and trusting that I'm lovable.
Andrea, thank you.
Yes.
So incredible to
good.
have
This
you
is
today.
So good.
So thank you.
So good.
We love you. And
the mark of a good episode is I've got something from this.
same. Yep.
I'm like going back to the team.
Yes.
My business partner, Jesse, is actually in the background here. He's going to be on with us in an hour. And I'm like, dude, are you listening about process over outcome? Are you like,
Yes.
you know what I mean?
Yes.
Andrea, how can people, if they wanted to find you and talk to you and communicate and ask you about how do you, because this is a whole separate
running.
episode. You're running, or how do you navigate being a mother of, how old are your kids, by the way, right now?
8 and 12.
8 and 12. How do you navigate becoming, being a mother of an 8 and 12-year-old and being like a present mom and wife? How do they reach you? Like maybe Instagram? Where at?
Yeah.
What's the best way to
I'm
reach you?
always down for any type of chat like that. And hopefully, as a future therapist, I think have some really cool chats in the future.
What's your Instagram handle?
My Instagram handle is just Andrea McAfee.
Spelled McAfee is?
MCAFFEE.
Boom. Okay.
Okay. Love this. Thank you.
Guys.